Things in the Middle East are, well, they're really on the edge of exploding into a much wider conflict. We're seeing military strikes spreading across multiple countries now. So in this breakdown, we're going to walk through the key events as they've been reported, from the direct clashes to the expanding war fronts and the fallout that's hitting the rest of the world. And let's just start with the most important number, the human cost, because it is staggering. The sources we're looking at are reporting that over 1,400 people have already lost their lives. That number really grounds us in the reality of what's unfolding. So, what's at the core of this crisis? Well, it's a direct showdown between two of the region's heavyweights, Iran and Israel. And what's really different this time, according to these reports, is that we're way beyond proxy fights. This has become open, direct warfare.
And what we're seeing is this dangerous tit-for-tat playing out. On one hand, you've got Iran claiming a successful missile attack right into Tel Aviv, and on the other, a joint US-Israeli strike that reportedly targeted Iran's Bushehr air base, a place that's long been suspected of being tied to nuclear activities.
The details coming out of the source material are pretty intense. The claim isn't just that Iranian missiles hit Tel Aviv, but that they actually managed to get past Israel's famous air defense system. The reports describe a city just gripped by chaos, sirens blaring, explosions through the night, and people scrambling for shelter. The retaliation was reportedly just as dramatic. The strike on Iran's Bushehr facility was allegedly aimed right at a huge weapons depot, and the source describes the explosion as being so massive, it was like a nuclear blast, just turning the whole area into a pile of ash. A huge blow to Iran's military arsenal, if true. But here's the thing, this isn't just about Iran and Israel anymore. Not by a long shot. This fire is spreading, and it's pulling in neighboring countries, turning the entire region into a really volatile, multi-front war zone. Let's take a look at just how wide this is getting. Okay, first up, Kuwait. Reports are claiming that Iran targeted and completely destroyed a US airbase there. That is a huge message, that American assets anywhere in the Gulf are now considered fair game. Then you've got Bahrain. Reports claim Iran attacked the country's biggest oil refinery, sparking a massive fire, and also hit two hotels in the capital city. So we're seeing strikes on both critical economic targets and civilian areas. Meanwhile, if we look to the northern front, Israel is reportedly carrying out heavy bombing raids on Beirut, the capital of Lebanon. Now, the stated targets are Hezbollah's strongholds, but these attacks are happening in residential parts of the city. Over in Iraq, a US airstrike has allegedly killed a commander and two other members of the PMF, which are the Popular Mobilization Forces. This is an Iran-backed militia group, and it just shows how these proxy forces are now being pulled directly into the fight. And the conflict is also spilling over into the Palestinian territories. According to reports, Iran has fired missiles into areas occupied by Israel, which widens the scope of their attacks and hits incredibly sensitive contested land. And get this, even Dubai, a city known for being a safe global hub for business and tourism, has reportedly been hit. The sources attributing explosions across the city to Iranian drones and missiles. I mean, that's a move that just shatters the sense of security there. You know, it's not just bombs and missiles flying. There's also this fierce war of words going on. The rhetoric from key leaders is escalating, and honestly, some of these statements are just as explosive as the military action. So first, take this reported statement from Donald Trump. He claims to have totally demolished Iran's military. He allegedly said that 24 Iranian ships were destroyed in just 3 days, and that the country now has no air defense. That is a massive claim. On the other side, you have a reported statement from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who's really praising the US alliance. He's vowing that the fight against what he calls terrorist elements in Iran and Lebanon is going to continue, and he's confident that together they'll succeed. And then there's this other reported political claim, and it's a wild one. Donald Trump is said to have stated that he should have a role in picking Iran's next supreme leader. That is a pretty stunning claim to make about another nation's internal leadership. Okay, so what does this all mean for the rest of the world? Because the fallout from this conflict is already reaching far beyond the battlefield. We're seeing real economic and human costs that are starting to pile up. Let's start with the economic shockwaves. It's no surprise that with all this instability, global oil prices are on the rise. But there's an interesting little twist. The US has reportedly given Russia a 30-day window to sell its oil to India. This seems like a move designed to try and ease some of that pressure on the market. And that brings us right back to the human cost we started with. That number, over 1,400 dead. The source gives us a partial breakdown. At least 100 killed in Lebanon, 12 in Israel, and 6 US soldiers, with all the others spread across these different battlefronts. Every single one of those numbers is a life. And you can just feel the raw emotion on the ground. In Iran, we're seeing reports of massive anti-US and anti-Israel protests. In Iraq, there are funerals for the militia members killed in that airstrike. And in Israel, there's widespread panic and chaos, with people just fleeing to bunkers for safety. The whole region is gripped by anger, grief, and fear. So when you put all of this together, the attacks, the rhetoric, the fallout, it all leads us to one final deeply unsettling question about where this is all going. With the attacks escalating seemingly by the day, with more countries getting pulled into the chaos, and with this kind of inflammatory rhetoric flying around, you have to ask the big question. Are we watching the beginning of a much wider war? Based on these reports, the answer is still dangerously up in the air.